We're here now with Tanner Schorp, former Texas A&M tight end. A few years ago, a little bit before the Jimbo Fisher days, but of course he is locked into all things Aggies and locked into all things tight end. And I am so intrigued by this tight end room, the tight ends that they have now. It's modern football, but A&M I think has about a fourth of all the tight ends in college football in that room with all the guys that they have. Tanner, in modern football, how and with the offense that Jimbo Fisher likes to run, how important and how unique is it to have these many guys that probably have a little bit of a right and a claim to some minutes?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's definitely a lot of tight end talk to be had, man. But first, I want to say thanks for having me back on. I think the last time we talked, I was in quarantine in Houston, moved back to San Antonio, moved back home. But just want to say thanks again for having me on. And I think you recently got married, right? Congrats on that as well.
I did. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. As far as the tight end room goes, man, like you said, we have 6 or 7 guys that all I think could play. We have some younger guys and obviously, Max Wright, who's a veteran guy who we've seen what he can do. He honestly, people ask me about him all the time because, I think he's going to be the first one to run out there this year. He reminds me a lot of myself, honestly, man. He came from the defensive side of the ball. He's a bigger guy. He doesn't mind getting his nose dirty and getting in there and blocking, but he'll also, go out in the flat and kind of be that security blanket for Haynes. But I mean, there's so many guys out there that, in that room specifically that, want to play. And I think it's just an arsenal for Jimbo to kind of figure out who fits best where.
So I'm curious with how the tight end has evolved over the last 4 years. I mean, you look at the NFL, you look at college football, you look at guys like Gronk, who is sometimes that flexed out hybrid kind of wide receiver tight end. You even look like that's something they did with Jay Sternberger a couple years ago too. In the last 4 or 5 years, both in college and NFL, how have you seen the tight end position evolve?
It's completely evolved, man. I mean, it's truly a utility position now. You see guys that, can get in a 3-point stance and be attached to the line and block. That was usually my MO, but I didn't get split out very often. But you can see guys that can do that. And then the next play they're running, a seam route, and guys running all over the field. So it's truly, they take these big basketball guys now and turn them into tight ends because they can, again, get down on the post and play rough down low, or they can, spread out on the 3 line and shoot a 3. It's all over the place now, man. And having as many tight ends and as many good tight ends as you can in college and the NFL is huge. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's super important. I'll answer your second question first, I guess. It's super important to have that guy that you can, go through your progression, read kind of your first read, your second read. And then, if you start feeling pressure, you always try to find that tight end, whether he's down the field, in the flat, checking, whatever it is. It's super important. I think Haynes is going to be targeting him, Max, a lot more for sure in the flat and, on a couple screens. We'll see. But Jimbo uses the tight end much more than the offense that we ran when I was at A&M with Coach Sumlin. I always get pissed off talking about it because I wish I was there playing with him. I would have seen the field a lot more. but he uses the tight end. I mean, they'll get in 22 sometimes, at the goal line, and you'll see, two tight ends in there. I love the way that he utilizes those guys. As far as, the guys that we have this year, it's just going to be kind of piecing, where those guys go. Like you said, some guys can be attached, some guys can be split out. It's just going to kind of depend on, how their camp has been, who's running great routes, who's blocking, who can kind of do a little bit of both. And so I'm interested to see how he's going to use those guys. I am so old, dude. I mean, I feel, I don't want to say disconnected, but you need to tell me these things. I get all my information from you guys or on Twitter or whatever. I feel so out on the whole. I mean, I just I wish I would have made a trip up to just be at camp for, at least a practice and see those guys run around. But people keep asking me too, like, what's the inside scoop? What's up? I'm like, man, I'm old now. I don't get the information anymore.
But do you at least still get like the swag boxes? Don't they send out like alumni swag boxes or something like that?
Every now. Speaking of the alumni, shout out to Kathy Cap. She retired this past year. She was the best in the business. Our alumni program is unbelievable. I have buddies that played for other schools, other Big 12 schools, and A&M does it better than anybody in the country as far as former players. So just shout out to her. But I'll get box every now and then. Actually, I need another one. When I moved to San Antonio, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but when I moved to San Antonio, I moved all my stuff into a storage unit down here. And 3 days later, I get a call from the place. The place burned to the ground.
You're kidding me.
So I lost my bed, my couch, my TVs. Most importantly, a majority of my A&M memorabilia. Obviously, I still got my jersey back here, and I made sure that my awards were with me and stuff. But I lost a lot of gear, so I'm hoping that Montana or one of those guys in the equipment room will hook me up. So I just need to reach out to those guys.
Yeah, we got to get Matt Watson on that for you. With the new guys, I know since you can't speak necessarily to the individual talent of some of these new guys, when you look at a young wide receiver, a young tight end coming in freshman year, what is some of those hardest parts about learning that position, taking that position to the next level? And I know there's the two parts, the blocking and the pass catching parts, but what are some of the things that some of these guys are going to be learning, perfecting to take that next step?
Yeah, I think that the main thing that they're going to be focused on is definitely their bodies, their nutrition and their strength, conditioning, things like that. You have to be able to carry around the weight that you put on during camp and be able to run and jump and block, like you said. But I mean, learning in general, just how to get on the field. I mean, you saw Max Wright, play special teams. That was my path onto the field as well. Just getting the feel of the game and the speed of the game from high school to college is unbelievable. I think special teams helps with that for sure. Just being able to run out there and kind of see, okay, these guys are a lot faster and a lot bigger and a lot stronger than I thought. So just kind of getting your speed up and just getting the feel of the game before, they roll you out there, I think is super important.
And I asked you about this earlier, and maybe you can push back on it, or maybe it's cliche, but when you do have a young quarterback, with a little bit less experience, is it true that having a strong tight end or even a strong tight end core, a good group of good blockers and good pass catchers, it can help a quarterback like that kind of get into the rhythm of the game, have a little bit more protection, have a security blanket? Is that overused, or is that actually accurate from your perspective?
I don't think it's overused at all. I mean, of course, as a former tight end, I'm going to say absolutely. That's the security blanket you need. I'm hoping that we throw the ball down the field a little bit more this year. But I do think that honestly, Haynes is going to have an incredible security blanket with all those guys in that room, whether it's Max or Jake Johnson, Blake Smith, whoever it is. Those guys are going to be able to provide a check down and a security for him that I don't think he'll get from, at least in the first few games. I think that he's going to be looking at those guys a lot.
For sure, for sure. Well, like I said, I know you're an older guy now, but from what you've sensed from this team, what you feel, what's your take on this upcoming season? What do you think the ceiling is, and I don't want to say give a prediction, but what do you think that can be achieved this year with this team?
Yeah, I mean, golly, I watch, obviously all the college football, and I saw Desmond picked us to win the whole thing, which is awesome. It's definitely given us some pub, but it makes me nervous every year when we come out ranked so high. Obviously, there is no ceiling. I mean, we could go out there and win the whole thing with the talent that we have and the coaching staff that we have. We just have to execute. I mean, at the end of the day, those guys, they've been practicing their butts off for the last, during spring ball, obviously. And then I've heard that they've had a great camp. I haven't been around them like you have, but I've heard that they've had a strong camp and that those guys are ready. So it's just going to depend on if they execute and go out there and make it happen, make the plays that need to be made, when they need to be made. I think, let's see, looking at the schedule, it's Sam Houston, Appalachian. I mean, those first two games, those are no cupcake games, I don't think. I mean, I think that we should beat Sam Houston by at least 30 if we're playing the type of ball that we need to. But, those guys, they're winners. They're not just going to roll out there and let us, run over them. And then the same thing with Appalachian State. They always play hard. And then that third game, Miami, I've got that one circled. That's going to be a hell of a game and really kind of show us as fans. Now I'm a fan, kind of where the team is headed. So I'm excited about it, man. I hope we win more than 8 games. That's my prediction. That's what I'm hoping. So, hopefully more than 8 is where we're headed. Hundred percent Ole Miss. I've got a bunch of buddies that went to Ole Miss that I went to high school with down here in San Antonio, and I actually went to Oxford last year and went to that game. And I had to sit with them. So as I'm sure you can imagine, they've got their pom-poms out, and they were bothering me the entire game. But I think that Ole Miss can be sneaky. Arkansas, I've heard, has a really good team, and they've had a good camp. But yeah, Ole Miss, for some reason, sticks out to me towards the end of the season. Who's healthy, and can we beat those guys? We lost to them in a just ridiculous fashion last year, and I'm hoping that we really take it to them this year. And then, of course, Bama. I mean, right. That's he's got that one double circled. So
yeah. Well, and speaking of Bama and Nick Saban v. Jimbo Fisher, salty at all that the NIL dollars are flowing now? Also, a few years after you've moved on.
It's unbelievable, man. So the last time we talked, we were talking about the transfer portal and how crazy that was, and now it's the NIL deal. I mean, it's like we leave and all of this stuff starts coming out. I mean, just from living with Trevor Knight alone, I feel like I could have got some, residual, maybe, side deal. Well, I'm involved too, throw me a couple thousand or whatever. But I mean, it's crazy, man. And I tell people that ask me about NIL, I think it sways one way and sways the other. At first, guys weren't getting paid enough, and now they're obviously, some guys are getting paid too much. I think that NCAA, the SEC, whoever it is, will kind of find that middle ground and be able to kind of get it under control in a couple of years. But I think, there's some team, SMU's, like, each player is on salary for like 36 grand or something. I just can't imagine having 36 grand in college, let alone 36 bucks. But yeah, the NIL deal is a whole different story. It's nuts.
I think not for you, but just generally speaking, the establishments in Northgate are probably pretty happy about NIL.
Oh yeah, they're licking their chops, no doubt. That's what I'm saying. It would have been irresponsible for me to have $36,000 after an A&M win when I was there. Look at the guys. There's guys in Austin that are driving around Bentleys and Rolls Royces that haven't even played a single down for Texas. It's crazy, man. I don't really get it. I know that it's all guaranteed money, which is great for the players. But it's the Wild West, no doubt.
Yeah, well, let's close it out with this. I know the people who listened last year heard a little bit about what do you got going on now, and what is life after football look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So like I said, I moved back to San Antonio from Houston. Started an insurance firm with my mom and a couple business partners here in San Antonio called Inns Group San Antonio. So if there's any Aggies out there that need property and casualty or employee benefits, feel free to give me a call anywhere in Texas. There's a lot of Aggie-owned businesses out there, so they're definitely on my prospect list. So we've been doing that I moved back about 3 or 4 months ago, and just moving forward, man, working and trying to stay as involved as I can, like I said, on Twitter and on TexAgs and 24/7, and you guys just trying to stay in the loop as much as I can on the football side. But definitely excited for this season, and excited for the tight end specifically. I think it's going to be a great year for all those guys. So we'll see what happens, man.
For sure. Well, everyone go check out, his company. Look at that stuff. Look him up on Twitter and all the above to get some good hot takes through the season. And Tanner, so thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Thanks, Travis, man. I appreciate it.